Being from Detroit, Michigan, I had always heard about the Peace Corps because the Peace Corps started at the University of Michigan with one of our great presidents, John F. Kennedy, saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And being from the East Side, it was like, yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I got my Bachelor's of Science degree in nutrition, applied for the Peace Corps, and got an assignment to Kenya, East Africa, as a nutritionist. And it was, right on, because I know my African history, and I knew about Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya and the Mau Mau, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to Kenya. And when I got there, I became senior nutritionist, research officer for the Ministry of Health and Social Services, working in appropriate technology. My house was right outside of Nairobi in a town called Karen, at the foot of Ngong Hills, these beautiful rolling mountains just before the Rift Valley. One day, one of the ladies in my compound came to my door and she says, Davis, they couldn't say Rulester, so they called me Davis. Davis, Wanjiko's over there in the Jeep and she's getting ready to have a baby. I said, well, take her to the hospital then. She said, oh, no, you have to come, because the baby. I said, oh, okay, but let me go on over there and I went to the Jeep, I opened the door, and what I saw was a woman with her legs open, blood and fluid all over the floor, and what looked like a crown. The baby was crowning, the baby coming out of between her legs. I backed up and I closed the door of the Jeep. I ran to my house, went to the bathroom, grabbed a bucket, put it up under in the tub, poured the water in. I grabbed the towels that was hanging in the bathroom. I ran to my sewing room. I had a little sewing room where I was making my African jewelry. I grabbed this yarn, this string, went back, got the bucket of water out of the tub, went into my living room and grabbed this book called Where There Are No Doctors. Went out the door, went back to the Jeep with the bucket and the book and the towel, opened up the Jeep door, and he was out. Only thing, his feet was still up in her. I got up, climbed up in the Jeep, they put the bucket and the towels. I went to her and was trying to push the towels up under her, lifted the baby and put the baby on the towels. And I looked at him and I saw it was a boy. And I went into the spirit. I opened up the book Where There Are No Doctors and flipped a few pages, and I was on the chapter of childbirth. I think page 190, 172, 176. I don't quite remember, but I remember when there's illustration in bold print, and the first word was on the page was stop. Do not cut. And the illustration showed how the umbilical cord was coming from the mother to the child, and in bold print it said, wait. So I looked, and I waited, and I turned the page, and it showed where you could see how the blood and the fluid was coming from the umbilical cord into the child, and it said, wait till all the blood clears in the umbilical cord. And like I said, you can see it traveling, and you can see pockets of air, and then more blood, and then air. And then I just sat and I waited. And I looked at the next page, and it said, it showed you where to tie the cord in two spots, close to the body of the child, and maybe a hand distance away. You tied it in two places. So I waited, and I saw the umbilical cord kind of collapse a little bit. And so I tied it just like it was in the book. And I saw somebody had put a razor blade on the seat there, the Jeep seat, and I cut the cord. And I looked at him, I looked at her, she both were fine, everybody was fine. I wiped him off the meconium and the fluid that was on him. Then the driver comes out, takes jumps in the front seat, gets ready to drive. The women take the cord and the sack and they run off. Later, the driver comes back and says, the doctor says, who cut the cord? I could feel my intestinal tracts cramp. And he said, the doctor said, whoever cut the cord did a good job. So I'm a living testimony for the third goal that Peace Corps does deliver.